Well, good morning, everybody. I am Pastor Vicki here with Senior Pastor, Pastor Carl. Now, you preached yesterday on how seeds are a blueprint for our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's a question. Most commonly thought of a seed is that seeds give life. But you pointed out in the text that seeds actually have to die.
Absolutely.
First. So can you unpack that and help us understand what you mean that seeds die first and then give us life?
Well, a seed when it's planted in the ground, it's that you look at, like I talked about, or I quoted, that seed is hard and it's self-contained. And it's not until it's willing to be planted in the ground to die that it reaches out and it produces and develops. And you look at a field of wheat, and we kind of think of it as individual stalks, but it's not. They're all supporting one another and living and growing and producing new seeds. And I think that's a wonderful blueprint for life. As I said on Sunday morning, death is a part of life, not life a part of death. Death is a part of it, but life has the final word.
Yeah.
Just like a seed. A seed has to die, crack open, but that's just the beginning, and that's what's so exciting. And, the second part of that is, we have the grave. We all face it. We do a lot of denying, as I said, but there's little deaths all the time. And sometimes those little deaths are really hard. But we can always trust that God will bring life out of it. That we can always trust that God will bring life out of it.
So what does this new life from a dead seed look like for us today in the 168?
I've just been captivated by a story I heard. Never heard of this person, but I heard it on a podcast of Dr. Carol Swan.
Okay.
And she, tenured professor at Princeton and Vanderbilt, has been on radio and TV. Obviously, I'm living in a hermit hole because I never heard of her. But her story, it begins in just such desperate conditions. She grew up in a shack. She's African American. Grew up in the South in the late 50s, early 60s. Did not have running water. She got married to get out of the house, quite honestly. Had kids. This was in her 20s. And she made this statement. I heard her say, in my mid-20s, I died. And what she meant by that is that her marriage dissolved. She lost a child to sudden infant death syndrome, and I think it was in 1975. Her life began anew in 1976, and she gives credit to the Lord Jesus. She actually became a Christian like 20 years later, but she looks back at that time and says, that's when she had graduated from high school. And she said at that time, that's when I got my GED, that's when I started going to community college, that's when I graduated from Roanoke, and she saw the Lord's hand in giving her new life. So all I would say is in the 168, right, 168 weeks, those areas that maybe God is calling you either voluntarily to lay down, to die, or something that's happened that has died in your life, look around, because there's new life sprouting from that.
And that's a good thought in that we're starting to see spring pop up. We're journeying to the cross in the season of Lent and just seeing in our own lives how God is asking us to put something down, to let it die, so that new life can come from us.
Absolutely.
So that's a great thought. And there you have it for your Discover Verb this week. We hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you in worship.